Welcome everyone, and especially all you KTM 50 dads. As you have probably already figured out, if you're going to run these little monsters longer than 5 minutes, you're going to need complete knowledge on how these clutches work. Let's get started. Okay, after you've got the basket off, inspect it for excessive notching where the steel floaters ride. This is extremely common. Be sure to replace it at 30 thousandths wear to prevent erratic engagement. Another common occurrence that we are seeing are baskets that are being completely sheared off due to broken friction discs. Okay, now before any further disassembly, back off all 3 spring adjusters all the way down to 1 click. Okay, next, in order to get the clutch apart, you will need to remove the 6 screws either from the pressure plate side or the gear side. We prefer to get the screws off from the pressure plate side to keep the ball cage upright. Alright, well, you're mostly going to find that the screws are going to be difficult to remove. They have Loctite on them. So applying the heat to the screw head will crystallize the Loctite and make the screw removal much easier. Heat the screw head to 600 degrees Fahrenheit and allow a cool down period before removal. To remove the screws, use a T-handle hex head. If you have access to an impact wrench, it makes the job a lot easier. We recommend that you never reuse a screw once it's been heated. Alright, after removing the pressure plate, be sure to inspect for grooves caused from the balls riding up against it each time the clutch engages. As you can see here, this plate only has minor witness marks, which are normal, and any grooves that are deeper than 10 thousandths can affect performance and should be replaced. Okay, now remove the ball cage off of the fit bolts and be careful not to spill the balls. Okay, place the balls in a container for later use. Now inspect the ball cage for grooving just like we did for the pressure plate. Excessive grooving within the ball cage can affect performance as well. We recommend replacing the ball cage for any grooves exceeding 30 thousandths. Alright, next we're going to remove the 5 frictions and the 4 steel floaters. It's important to remember that there are 2 one-sided frictions, and the one-sided frictions are on the outside of the stack, and there are 3 two-sided frictions. They're in the interior, and each friction is separated by a steel floater. Inspect each friction for stress fractures, glazing, and wear. And remember, the double-sided frictions start out at 62 thousandths, and they should be replaced with any wear or measurement of 54 thousandths or less. Single-sided frictions begin with a 50 thousandths thickness, and they should be replaced at 42 thousandths or less. There are 6 fit bolts attached to the drive plate. These friction discs ride against the fit bolts when the clutch is engaging and disengaging. And the OEM bolts are soft and subject to premature notching that may cause erratic performance and or breakage of the friction disc. IRP fit bolts are made from heat-treated chromoly for long life. And note that the IRP bolt is on the left and the OEM bolt is on the right. Using a pen torch, heat the screws to make removal easier when replacing the fit bolts. And while you have everything apart, go ahead and inspect the gear for any kind of cracks or wear. The gear usually lasts a long time. To reassemble gear and install new fit bolts, place the cone washers back to back and drop over the hub of the gear. Okay, next is the installation of the drive plate. Now, for some unknown reason, KTM changed the drive plate from having no counterbore on either side of the plate where the fit bolts go in to having a 1mm counterbore on one side of the drive plate. KTM made this change sometime between 2013 and 2014 on. The IRP heavy-duty fit bolt will fit all models. Just be sure that the flat side is facing up. Now, if you replace your OEM fit bolts with new OEM fit bolts, just make sure that if you use the longer OEM fit bolt, make sure that your counterbore is faced up. Otherwise, the shorter fit bolt will work on any model as long as the flat side is up. Now we're going to install the fit bolt at the step side through the hole of the drive plate. Apply red Loctite to the threads and insert the flathead screws into the bolts, but do not tighten. The flats are provided to aid in tightening the fit bolts. Be sure that the flat faces outward so that the ball cage has a smooth surface to ride against. The IRP replacement screws are grade 12.9. Tighten to 106 inch pounds. Okay, and now for the friction kit reinstallation. First install a one-sided disc with the friction surface facing up as shown. Next install a steel floater, then a two-sided friction disc, followed by another steel floater, and then another two-sided friction disc, and then once again another floater, and then another two-sided friction disc, and then another steel floater, and finally a one-sided friction disc with the friction surface facing towards the steel floater. Make sure to have the steel of the one-sided friction disc facing up towards the ball cage. Now we're going to install the IRP carbon fiber friction kit. As with OEM, the one-sided friction is installed first with the steel side down. Next will be the steel floater, followed by a two-sided friction disc. Once again, another steel floater, and then another two-sided friction disc. Make sure the small circle of the friction goes around the fit bolt. Another steel floater, followed by a two-sided carbon fiber friction, and then the last steel floater, and finally the one-sided friction with the friction side facing the floater, the steel side up.
Okay, let's talk about springs. IRP heavy-duty springs compared to OEM springs. The IRP heavy-duty spring has a higher spring rate and thicker wire. Therefore, fewer clicks of the adjusters are needed to obtain the desired stall speed. IRP springs are made from stainless steel and are set solid. They also have a higher or longer free length, allowing the resistive force to spread more evenly, since only 3 of the 6 springs are adjustable. For this demonstration, we're going to use a spring tester. As you can see here, the OEM stock KTM spring is approximately 620 thousandths in free length, as compared to the IRP heavy duty spring, which comes in at a tad over 650 thousandths free length. The compressed height that we're going to use will be 510 thousandths for comparisons. The OEM spring comes in at 40 pounds per square inch at the compressed height of 510 thousandths. As compared to the IRP heavy duty spring, the same compressed 510 thousandths height comes in at 52 pounds per square inch, which translates between a 25 and 30% stronger spring. Okay, let's talk about the IRP Stage 2 Spring Kit. An important innovation of the Stage 2 Spring Kit are the aluminum retainers that have 2 functions. First, they help keep the non-adjustable spring secured against the drive plate, and second, they add preload to the non-adjustable springs to the equivalent of 2 clicks. The combination of a taller free length spring combined with retainers provides a more even resistance and a better performing clutch. As you can see, the drive plate shows witness marks where the springs are walking out due to centrifugal force because of the lack of a captive retainer. Again, the retainers along with the heavy duty spring reduces the clicks needed. We suggest when using the Stage 2 Spring Kit, start at 2 clicks and work your way up. Note that there are 2 bolt circles in the holes in the drive plate. Insert the retainers in the holes farther from the center line. Then insert all of the springs. Next, place the ball cage over the fit pins. A probe or a small screwdriver helps move the springs into place. Make sure the fit bolts are almost flush with the top of the ball cage. Next, place the 12 balls into the channels of the ball cage. The pressure plate is next. The IRP pressure plate is made from aircraft grade chromoly and heat treated for rigidity and resistance to wear. Apply blue Loctite to the threads of all the screws and tighten to 106 pounds sequentially if you have a torque wrench available. Otherwise, use a T-handle and tighten as tight as you can get it. Also, when tightening the screws, be sure to tighten in a crisscross manner so the pressure plate is secured evenly. Using a feeler gauge, your air gap must be between 20 thousandths and 30 thousandths with new components. Measure between the ball cage and the friction disc. If the air gap is above 40 thousandths, you should think about putting in new friction discs, or as an alternative, a cheaper alternative, use our IRP Racing shim. Racing shim is 20 thousandths and will fill in the excess air gap. Now the clutch is ready to be adjusted for stall speed. We suggest starting out with 7 clicks on each adjusting screw when using OEM springs and frictions. If you are using the heavy-duty Stage 2 IRP spring kit with retainers, we suggest starting out at 2 clicks. When increasing your clicks, be sure to rotate in a clockwise manner. On a side note, when checking for stall speed, we strongly recommend using a tachometer and set your stall speed between 94 and 9600 RPM. Now that the clutch is completely reassembled, install the clutch assembly onto the bearing on the main shaft. Be sure to slide the thrust washer over the shaft before installing the basket. Last but certainly not least, you may want to consider our aftermarket clutch cover with the highest fluid capacity of any clutch cover in the KTM 50cc motorcycle market. The stock KTM cover states a fluid capacity of 198 milliliters, while the IRP cover will give you an extra 127 milliliters of heat-fighting fluid capacity. That's a full 325 milliliters to help keep your clutch cool. Remember, heat robs power. Now, if the last 10 minutes or so of clutch instruction seems too tedious and too time-consuming, or if you've just replaced a drum or a pressure plate for the last time, consider an IRP triple grip clutch. You will get a premium performance with far less maintenance. I could go on and on as to why the triple grip clutch is a far superior clutch, but that is another video for another day.